Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today wanted to do another video. It's kind of a play off the top 30 fan bases I did. So I'm going to do a video next week that's the 10 most loyal. And again, like I said, these were some of the qualifications or attributes that I used to determine how good a fan base actually was in my top 30 fan bases video. And yeah, so this one is just pretty much based on how bandwagon I think a certain fan base is. So I did the top 10. And obviously, like I said, there's no exact measure you can do to come up with how bandwagon fan base is or not. Like I said, if you disagree, you think there's a bandwagon fan base that I missed, or you don't agree with one of the ones that I put on here, then definitely let me know. Like I said, I love to hear people's opinions on this. So go ahead and start with number 10, Arizona State. So Arizona State, they were in my top 30 fan bases because of how passionate they are when they are actually, fully drunk out there, ready for the game. Like I said, very similar to West Virginia's fan base, just in the pure rowdiness and passion of their fans. But at the same time, when they're losing, there's no one at the games. Even when they're winning, there's barely anyone. It's hard to say that brings an inconsistency, brings a bandwagon certain vibe to the fan base. But look at their stadium when they're losing. Look at their stadium when they're winning. It's extremely noticeable difference, more than the average team, a lot like Arizona State. So move on to number 9, UCLA. So again, same deal as Arizona State. A lot of Pac-12 schools are this way. When UCLA is winning, the Rose Bowl is packed. It's cool. But when they're losing, this isn't just for college football, it goes for college basketball as well. When they're losing, it's not filled out. There's not that many fans there. That's pretty much straight up it. I'm not saying that UCLA fans overly brag too much, or ones that are bandwagon fans, brag a lot about things that things they don't really know about. But just by the pure fact that they can barely get any fans out there when they're losing is the reason why they're on this list. So move on to number 8, LSU. So LSU is going to have Tiger Stadium filled regardless if they're going 7-5 or 11-1. Just because of what their fans expect out of them every year. The game day atmosphere is pretty good, but this is more on a national level. LSU is widely known as one of the most bandwagon fan bases in college football. It was worse in the mid-2000s than it is now, just because LSU hasn't had, aside from I'd say 3-4 years ago, they haven't had a real contending season in a little while. They look like they could this year, but it's kind of hard to tell. Like I said, they've been pretty consistent as of late. But if you look at lists from 5-6 years ago, almost bandwagon fan bases, LSU is normally in the top 3. So, excuse me. Move on to number 7, Stanford. So Stanford, perfect example of when they're not losing, they just don't give a crap. It's not even they don't go to games; it's just they don't give a crap about football. When they're doing great, awesome. There's a lot of fans out there, but for the time being, they are doing pretty good, so they will have fans out there. But look, I'd say 10, 12 years ago, like I said, not even the people didn't want to purchase the tickets to go to the games. They didn't even want to talk about football. They didn't even want to really acknowledge that there was football on that campus. It was just all about academics. I mean, look at the school. It is Stanford, so it's understandable. Very similar to Duke, Northwestern, those type of schools that are good right now, but when they're not good, the stadium's not very filled out. Even right now, while Duke's good, it's not filled out. It's a basketball school. But, yeah, so move on to number 6, Florida State. Florida State, it hasn't really, I can't remember the last time they had a bad season, really. So, I mean, obviously their fans are going to be pretty consistent when they're I'd say a top 20 team every single year. But again, this goes more on the national level. When they are losing, yes, stadium does empty out a little bit. It is a little bit of an inconsistent fan base. But on a national level, there's a lot of just fans that when they're doing good, they're like, yeah, go Florida State. I think that's kind of the Florida attitude. Just it persists into Major League Sports as well. When the Dolphins are doing great, then all of South Florida is for the Dolphins. When they're doing bad, people don't care. Same thing with the Heat. Same thing with the Lightning. Same thing with there's a lot of teams. Marlins, Rays, whoever you want to come up with. But that attitude persists into Florida State as well. So we move on to number 5, Miami. So this has been a constant thing for a while now. Obviously, if you guys have seen Miami play back in the 80s, 90s, if you guys have even watched the U, I'm assuming that's where most people saw it. the 30 for 30. You can see that Miami had fantastic fans. They were loud, they were crazy every single game in the Orange Bowl. But when Miami's doing bad now, not that many fans, barely half the stadium's filled out. The U used to be a great brand, but it is entirely right. It's in Miami. It's basically, people look at them fan-wise, basically, as a professional team. If they're doing great, then that's awesome. But when they're doing bad and there's other teams in Miami that are doing good, then those fans go over to the professional teams. They don't have a huge alumni base. They don't have a huge tradition before the late 70s, even I'd say before the early 80s is when they really started getting the whole U thing going. So, it's a school that I hope gets better, that I like to pull for. They're very entertaining team to watch when they're good. But, still a pretty bandwagon fan base just by looking at the pure scheme of things with their fans. So, move on to number 4, Oregon. So, Oregon is popular in my mind because of two things, and that's just vast success over the last 10 years, and then also their uniforms. Now, the uniforms is the obvious one. They are the Nike school, so just having unlimited amount of uniforms you can go through. It's not even their merchandise too, just kind of replicates what they wear on the field. So kids that really in the I call the kids, or the generation of kids below me, the Nike generation. And they, elite socks, wearing all the, it's basically Nike Elite everything. And Oregon fit very well into that vibe. No one really cares about Oregon as a football program. Before all the Phil Knight stuff came through, all the uniform combinations. But now it's one of the biggest programs nationally. They're able to recruit because of it. And I think if you get rid of their Nike stuff, then you get rid of at least 3/4 of their fan base. So, move on to number 3, Alabama. A lot of people know this. A lot of people don't like Alabama fans. I personally don't have a problem with Alabama fans when they're real and true Bama fans. I think they are maybe the most passionate fans in college football. They care so much about their football team, but a lot of their fan base is just there because of the success they've had. They have nothing to do with the school. They have nothing to do with the tradition of Alabama football. They just like it because they can say their favorite team wins national championships year in and year out, or at least contends for it. So if you are a Bama fan, you know that there are fans like that, and it sucks, but it's true. It is part of your fan base. When you have a fan base that big, it's something you got to deal with. So move on to number 2, Ohio State. Part of the reason they're this far up on this list right now is because of the amount of bandwagon fans they brought in over the last, I'd say, 6-8 months since they won their national championship. Like I said, just another thing that comes along with winning a national championship when you're as big a program as Ohio State is. There's a lot of people that, if Ohio State flattened out, or good example is a couple years ago, and Ohio State still had their allegation, or still had the sanctions against them. They couldn't play in a bowl game, yet they still went undefeated. Not that big a fan base that year. Well, it was a big fan base because Ohio State still has one of the farthest stretching alumni bases, but the fans that were just there because they were good obviously were not there. So, like I said, it's just something that persists because you just won a national championship. It does mean you have a bigger fan base, but it also does mean that there's going to be more fans that will give up on the team extremely quickly. So, move on to number 1, USC. So, this one will always be my number 1. USC's fan base, again, Coliseum's empty when they're losing. It's not even filled right now. Or watching the Washington game last night. Obviously, USC did not play well; they lost. But even the stadium was not fully filled out then, compared to their first 2 or 3 games when they were, ranked number 8 in the country or something like that. So, seeing the microcosms of the difference just from week to week, with so little difference in the ranking, having such a big effect on the attendance numbers. To me, that's one of the biggest things for a bandwagon fan base. If you're a real and true fan, then you'll be at the games, you'll be supportive of them no matter what, and USC is just not like that. So, like I said, there's a lot of good parts to every single fan base on this list because every single team that's on this list does have a pretty big fan base right now. Like I said, it's impossible to come up with an exact ranking for bandwagon or loyalty or anything like that. So, that's just my opinion on this list. Like I said, I kind of like doing these just random videos about, just random things in college football that a lot of people talk about. So yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.